So Gul, are you contributing to any of these positive examples in Punjab, being since you contest? It's like a political sort of question.
Well, actually,
you can just throw me off the
there is
stage if you want to.
there's some background to that. About around the time that we wrapped turning 30, I was at my village, which is in district Fatehgarh Sahib. Sandeep would know that. And I, was talking to the local DC. We were having a conversation about what's going on, and I was shocked to find out that my district, as per the 2001 census, had the lowest sex ratio in all of India.
Wow.
And that somehow, I was 30 then, and it really shook me up, because here I was with all the opportunity in the world from this village, and I didn't seem to think there was anything in the world that could limit me. And yet the same district that I belonged to, Fatehgarh Sahib, had the lowest sex ratio. And that really, really got me anxious and stressed. And I figured I need to do something about it. And that's when I set up this foundation called the Colonel Shamsher Singh Foundation. It was named after my grandfather, who was then living. And because I just felt, if nothing else, I need to start doing something about it. It's called, what I call it, the guilt and privilege that one carries of accident of birth. Because if it weren't for accident of birth, I probably would have been born in a different home in the same village Mahadiya, and maybe I would have been producing a lot of girls trying to try for a boy, or maybe worse, not letting them be born. And that was the reality of that area. Fortunately for us, and not because of anything that society at large has contributed to, but another district has now beaten us, so we're no longer the lowest sex ratio in the country. But that for me was the inflection point where I decided to get down and do something about it in my own limited capacity, because I felt the accident of birth was the reason where I was, not because of there being a uniform playing field. So that's, we work specifically on gender equality. We take accomplished women like Meghna, like Kalki, to talk to women in villages and try and explain to them that, look, this can also be your breadwinner. This can also be your support, because a large reason that unfortunate things like female feticide exist is because A, dowry. It's a very, very big part of the reality in the north of India. And B, because they feel when they grow old, who'll take care of them. And the whole idea is to try and reach out to them. We do public-private partnership with the district health authorities to try and get this message across. It's a long message going, but yes, I think it's beginning to show results. A lot of people are now investing in education. There is a man in my village who is a daily wage mason, and I got chatting with him. There was some work going on. I was at the village again for some foundation work. And so I said, what's going on? Catching up in Punjabi. So he said, I want to marry my daughter, and the family that we identified, because it's so rare to find an eligible bachelor in Punjab today who's not addicted to drugs. So he said, I found this boy, but he wants a Scorpio. So he said, what? I'm going to raise that money, but I'm going to send my daughter to study with that money. So he was also looking for ways in which to send his daughter overseas, and he was trying to work things out, and then there were other NGOs that stepped forward to help. But here is a man who understood the requirement that rather than raise all this money and go into debt, I'm a daily wage mason, I might as well raise this money and invest in my daughters rather than buy that Scorpio, which will wow. not achieve much.
Stories that still exist in our country. So I'm going to open it up to all you guys. Anyone wants to ask any of our panelists any questions, want to say anything about? There you go, great.
मेघना जी, आपसे क्वेश्चन ये है कि क्या ये ज़्यादा नहीं हो गया, अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट जेंट्स के लिए बढ़ गई है? जिधर जाओ आज इवेंट में देख लीजिए, 8 से 10 लड़कियां काम कर रही हैं, जेंट्स को बेचारों को काम नहीं मिल रहा है। ये भी हो गया है कि किधर भी गैलरी में जाओ आपको लेडीज ही मिलेंगे हर जगह। Why injustice to men? Especially in metropolis and all.
I don't have the figures, but I'm pretty certain that that's not the case, where unemployment is tilting towards men more than it is towards women. And in fact, there was a recent study that more women are getting into secondary education and colleges, but more women are dropping out of the workforce than in the last 10 years. There's been a huge jump. So from 2005 to now, more women are leaving the workforce in India. You know, so about 49% of rural women were working in 2005, and the percentage is now around 36. So, you know, I'm like I said, I'm certain that that's not the case. And anyways, I think the discussion today is about how we can sort of achieve a balance between the two. It's not really, and that's never the intention to do men versus women. You know, that's very juvenile, and we don't. That's not the idea. The idea is to look at how we can create an equal society, which is empowering for everybody. Right? So
and other thing, there is a case going, many cases going on in our society, in our Biradari also. So much power is given to women that on her saying, their full family is being imprisoned unnecessarily without
I'll take
asking.
that, actually.
Please,
So,
anybody can.
Sir, you're referring to Section 498 of the Indian Penal Code, which is no doubt a very powerful piece of law. And I'm going to try and answer it as honestly as I can. There is misuse of 498, and there's no doubt about that. And it's unfortunate. But the number of people who've actually been benefited by 498 in rural areas, where women are in a very poor position in the home of their husband because of exactly dowry, is very disturbing. Now, is the law misused? Yes. But is it required? Also yes. I think when the lawmakers get together to make a law, and this is of course based on the founding principles of the modern state, when social contract of Hobbes, Locke and Rousseau, which is what laid the foundation of the modern day state system, was the greater good. So are you trying to benefit more people or harm more people? If there is a law that actually achieves greater good with some unfortunate cases of misuse, I think it works out in balance. However, on the cases of misuse, there has been some efforts of a lot of NGOs to try and make those found guilty of misuse punishable and culpable under newer laws that are being made, which are going to be annexures to that particular law. So the punishment and culpability for those who misuse sections like the 498 should be very high, so other educated women, because it's the educated ones that are using it, don't use it.
Anybody else?
Hi, my question is open to all the panelists. I would like to show my concern about trivialization of hashtags and campaigns like "No means no," which comes from Bollywood and all the movies. "Why loiter," as Kalki mentioned, and also, I mean, all the campaigns which we see running on social media. So my question is, I'm sure my friends or people here in the hall, they know about women empowerment, everybody's talking about it, but when it comes to self-advocating the life, human rights of women, or practicing it or putting it into action, so I see a gap there. And it makes no sense, talking about it every time, but when you have to come to practice it, nobody is doing it. So how do we fill that gap?
You will take that?
I mean, yeah, I think that's a general disease of the time, that social media, we talk a lot more on social media than we do in life. We feel like we've saved half the world on Facebook in half a day by saying, supporting 20 causes, but actually, what are we doing on the ground level? But I think that, things have to start somewhere. You cannot silence a cause, and yes, hashtags, maybe, maybe 70% of hashtags are just hashtags, but those 20% make a difference. There are 20% of those women who use the hashtag, or people who use the hashtag and actually go out and do it, go out and loiter, and go out and support a cause or change laws, or even as simple as in your daily life, if you're in an office job or whatever job you're in, what do you choose? It makes a difference. Women always ask me, how can I support the cause of women? And I said, support yourself. Because, you know, if you're empowering yourself in your workplace, if you're standing up for that little misogynistic, you know, joke that's happening, you're already making a change. Yes, it might not, you know, feel like a big change, but if everybody does that every day, it is making a change. So small steps and constantly bringing up the conversation is the way forward. And of course, it's easy to be jaded by social media. I think that a lot more is said than done on social media. But it has also cut out the middleman. It has also made that people can be themselves. You know, like if I want to correct something that's misquoted about me, I can do it on my Twitter. And all in all, I think cutting out the middleman, cutting out that anyone being able to speak about what they really think is as Gul was saying, the greater good, you know.
Yeah, I'd just like to add there, I mean, you know, if you see what is the most, like I come from an advertising background, right? So what works is messages when they're repeated. There's a reason why all of these, all brands really repeat messages, right? And I think the same sort of you know, idea is that if you repeat the conversation and it's constantly active and it's constantly happening around you, that's what affects you. And then you start to make small changes within your limited sphere of influence, right? So you may not see it, but it's happening with every individual person in their own limited sphere of influence. And like she said, it'll take a while where you start to see a large, drastic change happening, but it's starting and it is happening, and social media contributes to that in a big way.